I'm going to talk a little bit about the St. Lawrence Skiff. The St. Lawrence Skiff is a historical design. It started off in the Thousand Islands area of upstate New York, in the area between the U.S. and the Canadian shores, just outside of Lake Ontario. And in the mid-1800s, farmers and ranchers built these boats out of wood. They built them to take their chickens to market, take their furs to market, go on dates. They were the family transportation between the islands. And then the railroads in the late 1800s brought tourists to the area. And then the boats evolved into being a guide boat. A guide would row, sit in the middle and row, and he'd take out two paying customers that they call sports. And they did really well with this. And at one point there were a dozen to 24 builders of these boats, probably built tens of thousands of these boats, and were shipping them all over the country. Now they were in wood, they were heavier boats, in the 200-pound range. But they were a product of evolution. The boats evolved to handle the shoals and the moving water and the weather systems that were prevalent in the St. Lawrence Seaway in that area. Then when power boating came along, the designs completely faded away and died. Everybody wanted power boats. When fiberglass came along, there was some efforts to revive the design, but that they were different. People were interested in power boats. In the early 2000s, I started sailing with a friend of mine who still rows one of these boats every morning. He's 86 years old. And he got involved in these through a mutual friend that wanted him to go rowing. And Andy was a racing sailor. He was a pioneer in composites. And he didn't want anything to do with a rowboat. He said, you know, rowboats are 800-900 pounds. They have a bait well in the middle. I don't want to be in any rowboat. But after having a good sailing event, winning a Veracruz race, his friend talked him into trying these boats out, and they wound up finding one out of Canada they could buy, and then eventually they had some boats built. They built some carbon boats, they built some moles, and then the moles got set aside and production ceased. Anyway, we picked up the moles, we're rehabbing them, we're going to make some tweaks and design changes. I started this project back last summer, 2017, and I got started talking to Doug, and he mentioned that he wanted to do the Texas Water Safari. And throughout this process, I've never thought that this would be a downriver boat, although we saw a lot of really good performance of the boat over the last few days, and of course we had to quit because of an equipment failure, not so much of the boat. But this is the St. Lawrence Skiff. It's 18 foot long, 42 inches wide. They were designed to be rowed typically from the gunnels. We're going to provide some changes that will allow you to run the oars farther outboard if you want. We're going to provide some options to carry a little lithium-ion outboard motor should you want. We see it as a health and fitness, a boat, an adventuring boat, and perhaps even a downriver racing boat. So that's the St. Lawrence Skiff, and I'd like to thank Doug and Dutch for doing the race this year.